Like freedom starts now. It starts now and it starts today. Like I look at myself in my own life. I would often go to myself and go, if I had millions of euro in my bank account, I was financially completely free and I was that character that you're meant to be, that society says you're meant to be, how would I live my life? I'd probably walk a little slower. I'd probably be a bit more mindful. I'd imagine I'd have more time for people. I'd be more generous. Well, can be it today. Try to be it today. If we live our lives completely dependent on what the world is telling us about ourselves, I think we miss out about the real authenticity, because each one of us ultimately have to look in the mirror with ourselves every day. How can I, amongst this external stimuli, how can I still remain content and calm, like the depth of the sea, rather than being this dancing monkey that's just reacting to what the world tells him we should feel? The ultimate truth within it, for me, is to find more joy, find more peace, find more self-acceptance, and have as much of a laugh as long away as I can.
Welcome to this week's Humankinder episode. I think many of us live with a lot of pressure that we need to do something huge in the world in order to feel worthy. And my guest today has done something incredibly huge. David Flynn is one half of the Happy Pear, which is a huge vegan revolution started about 20 years ago in Ireland, from a small fruit and veg shop to a cafe, to a regenerative farm, to best-selling cookbooks, to over 80 plant-based products across Ireland and the UK, to 15 online courses, to an online community of over 2 million, and has really touched the lives of millions of people. But in this conversation, Dave shares that purpose isn't necessarily about doing big, spectacular things. It's actually about the expression of you as a human being in your fullness. It's the small, simple, embodied moments and the role of community that are a potent antidote to the constant striving that so many of us feel. I think it's really powerful to hear from someone who has pursued and lived many of the dreams that they had and continues to do so, and yet also reiterates the message that we are enough right here, right now, in this moment, not in a future moment where all of these things and external events have coalesced to give us our perfect life. Just a quick note to say, if you notice a slight drop in the audio quality of this episode compared to other episodes, it's because the primary microphones that we used on the day actually failed. We ran out of memory space, and using the secondary microphones that were attached to the cameras, and I've been able to clean that audio so that it's very listenable, but it is a slightly lower quality than what you're used to on Humankinder. So thank you for sticking with us as I learn the many, many lessons of podcast production. So I thought I might read something that you've written that really...
Oh, great. That's interesting to hear.
It hit me.
Great.
It hit me, and I also read some of the comments that were underneath it, and I always find that interesting to read what people say, right, and the impact. And so the quote is this: it's the most meaningful purpose is found not in external achievements, but in the courageous act of becoming more fully yourself. May you have the courage to shed societal expectations and tap into the wellspring of purpose that lies within. Your unique gifts and authentic expression are a profound gift to the world. The more you do this, the more you inspire others to do the same.
That sounds fierce smart, whoever wrote that.
It sounds fierce smart, whoever wrote that.
Jesus, lads.
I'd be interested in hearing a bit about where did that come from, and what has been the big learnings in your life that led you to put that down?
Well, like I've always been a contemplative, like a bit more relative to Steve, being identical twin, you're always compared to that with one another. And I've definitely been more contemplative, and I like a little bit of space to ruminate and kind of write ideas and, understand things in a different way. Like Steve's more action. We're both very similar, like, so we're 99.9% the same DNA. So, we're talking about minor differences here, but, I've always been one that's been more ruminative. And I'd say like the root of what we're writing about there would have been back from me and Steve. I'd probably have to track back to where, like, being identical twins, you're very externally focused. We definitely went through the first 21 years of our life. We were very much looking for external validation. As we mentioned earlier, we played semi-pro rugby. We both played off scratch and golf. We did modeling because it was a great way of meeting girls, and it was a great way of getting social credit from the lads because we were very much male dominated culture. And then it wasn't until we were 22 and we both went away traveling separately that we got very into the more internal world and kind of, we both got very into meditation. We did Vipassana meditations there when I think we were 21, maybe we were 22. And that kind of, for probably the next 7 years, we used to meditate 1 hour, 2 hours a day, an hour in the morning, an hour in the evening. And we definitely went down this internal, like we left as these very kind of American style jocks. And then, yeah, it was quite an interesting couple of years where we both got very, very internally focused. Like I remember we were very hot blooded men, like very hot blooded young men that were very always looking to meet girls and, you know, try to kiss girls and be with girls and whatever. And then I remember when I went away traveling by myself and I started getting into meditation and I went through this real transformation with myself that I remember I met so many beautiful women that I would have really wanted to be physically, you know, do physical stuff with them. And I remember I just had no interest. Like I even shared beds with some of them because there was nowhere to stay and there was no sexual drive at all. Like there was very much this change was going inside of me. So I'd say the seeds were probably planted during that idea of that the first 20 years of my life were very much externally focused. And, you know, you're always looking, you're a bit like a dancing monkey. You're always looking for a biscuit. Look at me. I'm great. And you were always dependent on someone else telling you were great. Whereas I'd say the last kind of, I'm 45 now. So the last kind of 25, 24, 23, I don't know how many years, last couple of decades have been much more aware of the internal journey being more important. And that if you look at the sea, the depth of the sea is always calm and there's always waves at the top. And life, if we live our lives completely dependent on what the world is telling us about ourselves, I think we miss out about the real authenticity because each one of us ultimately have to look in the mirror with ourselves every day. And we're only accountable to ourselves. Like we really, really are, like our own degree of happiness, our own degree of calm and presence in each moment. Like it's ultimately down to our own responsibility in the moment, I believe.
Yeah. It's beautiful to hear that transition because it's something that I think is happening more broadly on a global level now. This awareness that the inner world really creates the outer. And you mentioned a word there, which is responsibility for your own state, responsibility for your own presence. That can be a hard message to hear.
Oh, and then even I was thinking there, I was dropping Elsie to school this morning. I was thinking happiness, like you almost have to have a caveat to say like that. If I'm talking about happiness, people will go, oh, it's lucky for you. You live in Greystones and you're a twin and you grew up in a house that was a nice house and you're completely privileged. And that is absolutely true. And it just somehow it presses people's buttons a lot, like, you know, talking about happiness or talking about things. And I'm sorry if I'm pressing anyone's button here. But I'm ultimately just talking about my own experience with it, that, I do believe the older that I get, the more I do. Like, if you look at the top 5 regrets to dying, which was Bonnie Wade, a palliative care nurse in Australia. She wrote this, it was really the blog post I found more interesting than the book. I did read the book, but she obviously was there when people died, and she consistently looked at what the top 5 regrets of dying. And one was, I wish I'd lived a life more true to myself. I wish I'd made more time for my friends. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. There was one other one, something like, I wish I'd been more true to myself. And then the last one was, I wish I had allowed myself to be happier. And I really do believe, because I look at myself, there's so many habitual reactive patterns which happen, and something good happens, yay, I feel good. Something bad happens, ooh, boo, I don't feel good. So you've got to, like, I find it within myself, I've got to catch myself and kind of go, hey, do I need to react like this? Can I, you know, how can I amongst this external stimuli, how can I still remain content and calm, like the depth of the sea, rather than being this dancing monkey that's just reacting to what the world tells him we should feel.
Yeah, and I think that's the empowering side of this realization and this conversation with yourself, is that you stop seeking external validation as much as you were. And that can feel like a bit of a loss, because in a sense you're giving up something, but what you're gaining in return is that the way that you show up in the world is down to you, and you show up the way that you want to show up no matter what's happening outside. And in order to go on that journey, there's big themes that come up that kind of pull you out of that. And I'd be interested to hear from your perspective, what were those big things, and are those big things for you that would pull you down or that would make you reactive?
Definite things what I'd see, like even from a business point of view, like we have a family business, and like I work with my three brothers, and my dad is still very much involved. So sometimes like if there was something in the business going on and I'd see dad was grumpy and upset and he'd say something, and then you kind of go, oh, we all better feel grumpy. You know, the tone in the room here is we better externally look grumpy because we're all unhappy, you know. So there is, but I still believe, like me and Steve, I guess, are quite fortunate in that, and I consistently, for anyone listening, I'm sorry that I keep saying we, like I do talk more in a we because I came out of, I was at one egg that split into two. So I've always been more a we as being my pronoun rather than an I. And even I was thinking there just while you were speaking, I was kind of going, well, like if I look at the first 21 years of our lives, we drank a lot of alcohol. Like we were definitely looking for external stimuli to help make us feel good. What can I do to make me feel good? What can I do to make myself, how can I feel the way I want to feel? And I think that's the journey of life, like the journey of life. And, how can you feel more content in yourself? Like I look at my eldest daughter, she's 14 and she's gone through those teenage years and it's really tough. Like I see how self-conscious she is. I see how, and that's just part of it's not exclusive to her, but how just image focused. And so doesn't want to step out of line and all these various things. And then I kind of look at the last kind of couple of decades and it's very much been about how can I find more contentness within myself? How can my life is it's less about huge ups and huge downs and much more about steady state. Like if you look at a lot of, you know, spiritual type people, monks or sisters or nuns or any of these type of, or I don't know what are the words to use, but people who are more spiritually inclined, their lives might be very boring to someone else. They might go, geez, your life is so boring. But I guess it's more ultimately down to how can we each find more joy in each moment? And, you know, I watched this great thing. I sent it on to my daughter. It was Time in Scale. It was a really interesting video and it showed that the history of the universe, 13.8 billion years. And it did it to scale out in the Mojave Desert out in California. I'm not sure it was the Mojave Desert, but the desert anyway near California. And so 6.9 kilometers represents the scale of 13.8 billion years. And then it showed that humans, the human kind of whatever type of human we are now, is only about 300,000 or maybe it's 300 million. I don't know. I can't remember the details of it, but it was ultimately represented where it came down to about the final foot of 6.9 kilometers. We were like the final foot. And then our lives are half a hair size in terms of the history of the universe. So it just gave a great context to us kind of going, like, we're so important. Like, you know, like, and I catch myself all the time thinking that I need to, how do I make an impact and how do I do this? And it's like, well, ultimately, I think, how can we be more joyous? How can I be more present? How can I be more experience what's going on and try to let go of the tension within my body, which is there quite a lot of the time too.
Yeah, I resonate with that feeling of tension in the body and the nervous system getting jacked up and amped up. And one of the big themes in my life has been this persistent sense of just not being good enough, no matter what it was. And if you did achieve something that was recognizable, then that was just the base level. That was almost just the standard. Mm-hmm. And then you write in your blog as well about that feeling of not being good enough. And I think for me, having practiced in psychotherapy and spoken to a lot of people about this, it's something that a lot of us feel. And it feels like a big barrier to what you're talking about now, which is to be joyful by your own nature. Mm. I'd be interested to know your thoughts on that. Not enough, not good enough.
Yeah. Well, like, I think when I started writing that blog, and I managed it for maybe 8 or 9 months. I did it quite regularly. And I've got my youngest daughter is 1.5 years old. So that's been an amazing journey to watch her now as a more mature parent. You know, I had my first daughter when I was 30 and then I had Fia when I was 44. I was 43, something like that anyway. But it's amazing just to watch her. So I have more life experience and for good or bad, but I can just see the inherent joy within her. I see that her natural nature is curiosity, it's joy, it's happiness. It's absolute like the wonder in her eyes. Like we're walking down the road and she just says hi to everyone. And like, she's so curious about a bird or a bus or a car or tree. Like and it's so amazing to see that this is the inherent nature which comes out like as human beings. And and people just adore her. Like everyone's like, oh my God, she's so, and it's because she doesn't have she's not trying to impress anyone. She's not trying to get anything out of anyone. She's not trying to manipulate. She's not a dancing monkey. Like people come see her, or people see her and they go, oh my God, she's so cute. And she isn't trying to smile. She isn't trying to perform. She can't do anything. She's just looking at them with complete acceptance, with complete presence. And that's what I believe how we can still retain some of that throughout our lives, because that I believe is real success.
Hello there. Just a quick one from me. If you're enjoying this conversation, the biggest thing that you can do to support the show is to hit the follow button if you're on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, and please do rate 5 stars. And if you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and give us a like. All of these things are completely free. They really support our growth, and they also make sure that you get notified of any new content that comes out, so you don't miss a thing. Also, if you're interested, you can follow Humankinder on Instagram at human_kinder, where I'm posting many different clips across different episodes and sharing content along the journey. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your listening. And now back to the show.
Yeah, that's...
I don't know if I've answered your question, but...
No, you have, yeah, because there's inherent in what you've said is the idea that being here now as you are is enough.
Mm.
And the thing about children is that they are here now as they are. And when someone meets a child who's in that state, it allows them to borrow that state for a brief moment. It's always fascinating for me to see. I have an uncle who's just had a new a nephew born, and so one of his daughters has given birth, and now they've got 2 little boys, and the joy that's come into his life whenever he's around them or wherever he's near them, and as soon as he goes near them, like it bursts out of him. And I'm always curious to see, like, where was that before? Was that always in you? Mm-hmm. And it's just that now when the kid is here, you can access that, or is it something that the kid is doing? And so when you talk about being joyful by your own nature and doing things to be in that state, it seems to me that we have our ways of getting into that state, but they always come from outside. So you'll watch people have a few drinks and suddenly you'll be like, I feel like I've just met this person for the first time, because they're disinhibited, or they've had even an ice bath or a sauna, and suddenly you can't stop them from talking. Like we jumped in the ocean this morning. When you come out, you're high from what's happening inside yourself. And so there's something happening there wherever we feel that endorphin kick inside, whether it comes from outside or it comes from a cold bath or whatever. We somehow get access to this state, which I feel like is always inside us. And so I'd be interested to hear from you, what are some ways that you've found of entering that state more?
Yeah, well, there's so many bits there now, they're kicking around in my head. Like a bit like which I was saying there about alcohol. Like originally, me and Steve would have drank lots, and then we were kind of going, well, how can I get the same experience internally? How can I and I guess being competitive. I remember when we first started meditating, Steve was like, I want to get enlightened. Like, how can we get enlightened this year, Dave? Like, let's start meditating like 7 hours a day. Let's like hit it hard. Which isn't like normal for typical 21-year-olds. Yeah. So we were kind of, very ironically, we were using our, our same tools of achievement, and look at me, I'm great, to try to apply them to spiritual things. But, to answer your question, Trina, like, I think even the human experience, like, because we've got eyes and we're externally focused, like we're looking outside of ourselves, that inherently, I don't think we as a culture, because it's a cultural thing, that we spend as much time, in our own internal space by ourselves and learning to kind of moderate it and make peace with it. Because modern life, my experience of modern life is that the culture is very busy. It's very kind of, And now with social media, there's so much comparison. There's so much like, you know, you're successful if you have a certain amount of followers, if you bought a house or have a house and you have a car and you go on holidays and you know, like people will see success in so many different things. But it was interesting. We went for dinner on Friday night. My parents were 50 years married. 50 years married. There was all the kids and their wives came. So there was 10 of us. There was, myself, my 3 brothers and our partners and mom and dad. So, or maybe it was 9 of us. And Justine at the end of it said, well, like, that's like quite a great reflection of a successful life. Like here you are with all your family. You've been married 50 years. You've got loads of grandkids, like, and like all your family still love one another. Like they still see one another most days and they still love one another. Like that is success. And it was like, that was a really nice reflection that she kind of said about it. But I do believe that it's a hard one to crack, like, because, like maybe there is other cultures in the world where there is more cultivation of the internal journey and more experience spent in this. But in my experience growing up in the Western world and growing up in Ireland at a time where there's been social media, there's been so much kind of monetary wealth and so much looking outside of ourselves that it takes serious intentionality and serious kind of, you've got to kind of be disillusioned with the modern society, which I think most people are to a degree, like whether we admit it or not, we get up and oh, geez, here we go again. We're back on the wheel and I got to go get the job and go get to work and earn the money and pay the bills and get the food and cook the dinner. Oh my God, jeez. Whew. Oh, whew. Jeez, we got through another day. Woohoo. So I don't know how, like, I'm going off in a million different directions here. But your question was about stimuli. And I'd say that swim and sea is one thing that we do every day. And that is like getting high. Like it is, you like, and we were doing it like nowadays there's so much. Well, I do cold water therapy because it's great because it channels my body, whatever, blah, 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 blah. But, we just started doing it. It was really fun about 10 years ago. And then other people started doing it. We made friends with people that were doing it. And suddenly it was really nice that we go do it and we'd all kind of get high in the morning. We didn't notice and we have great chats and we bring tea and coffee and stand around at sunrise and it was glorious. So we do swim in the sea. We do train quite a lot. Me and Stephen do. We exercise, we'd run or do yoga or handstands or whatever the hell, like, and we're not trying to be heroes. Like we're not, Rambos or I don't know who the modern day person is. We're not He-Men. No, they're very old expressions. But we do really enjoy being physically fit because I think when you were talking about the blog that I wrote, I remember I did write one about the importance of being embodied. And I was talking this to a friend recently. She was saying she was very anxious and suffering with anxiety. And I was saying, well, like you go around, you live your life like your body is just to carry your brain around. And I think, the more we can be embodied, like we're mammals, we're animals. So I think movement is so important. Like it buffers against stress. It brings you into the present moment. It reminds you you've got this sensorial machine, like the most efficient, incredible system which you live in. And it reminds you that this thing, like when it feels good, when it's strong, and like we exercised this morning, you did a great workout and we all did it. And like afterwards, I was like, wow, I feel so strong and good for myself, not rather up to Arnold Schwarzenegger or whoever you compare yourself to. But I noticed walking down the road, I was like, wow, my abs feel great in my arms. I feel, wow, I'm great. You know, and that was really nice feeling.
Yeah, there's so many little rituals, so many little habits there that all sort of add up. And what I heard in what you said was the first thing is actually awareness of the inner game. And like you said, think about just how many external projects you're involved in, right? Whether that's in work and you're hitting certain KPIs or you're doing work outside, we have all of these external projects and that's how we measure success. And what's struck me more and more over the last few years is that we put no value on inner projects. You know, it was very rare that you find someone who says, well, do you know what I'm really proud of this year is that this year now when I go into social settings, I'm able to be a little bit more myself. Mm-hmm. And this year when I go in and I talk to people who used to really trigger me, I can actually let that go a bit more. Or this year, I'm actually just less serious in work. And I'm saying more what's true for me in the moment. And I don't think we give ourselves enough credit for those achievements. Because if we have if we're spending all our days on the external projects, surely we should be spending at least half our time on the inner projects. And whether that's dipping in the ocean and knowing how that feels, whether it's community and relating to people consciously, whether it's meditation, I find it hard in myself to validate myself for those things because they don't seem to be progress on the external side. You don't get anyone saying, wow, well done. Like, I can see that you're a little bit happier this year than you were last year.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe your close friends or your partner might see it. But as a society, we don't really call that out for people.
Yeah. No, your examples are great. It made me think of back when me and Steve years ago, we'd write our New Year's resolutions, and ours would be like, I'm going to conquer the world. I'm going to climb Mount Everest. I'm going to be the world's strongest man. I'm going to win the maths challenge of the universe. And I'm going to be the best father as well. No, we'd have also, I'm being facetious here, but we'd have all sorts of, for every aspect of our life, for family, for health, and we'd break it into 5 categories and we'd have all our goals, and it'd be like, oh my God, it'd be so overwhelming. So I think, like, I agree with everything you said. And I also would add that, I think it's more the being bit, like, which is hard because our goal orientated step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 approach to life. I think the bit which I'm more trying to tune into myself is more the being part, which is I can't take that same operating system of achievement or, well, we've got to show up every day at 5 a.m. and meditate for 2 hours, and then I'm going to be kinder and more enlightened and come on and white knuckle it. Whereas I think what I've found for myself is that, like, maybe the last decade, or it's probably longer now, that most of my New Year's resolutions are always like, my New Year's resolution is, it's non-measurable. It's not a, what do you call those, smart goal. It's not a smart goal at all. It says woolly as hell. How can I be more kinder to myself? How can I be calmer? And how can I be a nicer person? Like those really woolly, non-smart goals, but ultimately that's more, which is like, I'm trying to come at it with a different perspective than the Western mind of achievement. And I'm going to do this and then I'm going to sell it off or whatever. So, yeah, I think that's kind of important as well.
And so when I hear that, I completely agree. But when I hear that from someone in my position, say, who's just really starting out to do the thing that they really love doing in the world, and maybe has been now in my early 30s and have been hunting around for what actually does light me up? What do I do? What do I like doing? When I look at someone like you who has been on that journey maybe since your early 20s, when you just sort of said, you know what? We're going to start a veg shop. We're going to start a revolution. And I see you haven't gone on those journeys. You've been all over the world. You've created so many things. And I wonder about, is it that you're just now relaxing back a little bit, having done what you wanted to do in the world? And did that give you the fulfillment that you've been seeking? Or are you saying now that you've done all those things and they were great, but they never really delivered the thing you were after? What's that relationship been like? Because I'm trying to balance here the outer and the inner.
Well, I don't think I ever done, like, I rarely look back and go, I've done this, or I've become, like, there's no looking back really. Like, if I look at myself now, we're 20 years since starting the Happy Pear, more than 20 years. And I'm as excited as ever about it. And I'm looking forward. I still have just as many dreams and ambitions and just as many. They'd be in different areas and different priorities now. But there's my foot is like, I think when you're alive, your foot's to the floor or else you're slowly dying. Like, so I think like I'm just as engaged as the day we started. Like, I'm adoring it. It's in my head all the time. Like it lights me up. Like, it really, really does. I'm thinking about it and I do it and I adore it. It's so much fun. So it's definitely, there's no sense of taking my foot off because I see, like, I look at like, our mission has always been to help people eat more veg, and we've been 20 years in the food system. And I look at food being the biggest cause of environment degradation, species loss, greenhouse gas emissions, climate change, all these things. I look at food being the root of them. Like we've had 20 years under behind the scenes of the food system. Like, we know how, more than the average person knows how the machine works. And I realized that the power of making more conscious, local based food choices, the change it can make, like, it really can. And like, I was listening here in the car, I was listening to Paul Hawke, and someone who's really inspires me. He's an environmentalist and he's got a new book out, and good carbon. And he was saying he believes we've only got about 11 years left before we reach a point of no return in terms of environmental, it just start to spin where we can't stop it in terms of climate changing to a degree that we can't grow food and there's more starvation and more, all these type of things. So it kind of makes you kind of go, wow, well, like certainly in terms of what me and Steve do in terms of trying to ultimately, when I look at what we're doing, like we've always been using food. Food has been our main medium, but ultimately it's trying to wake people up to this incredible experience that we have, like this one wild and sacred life. And how can we just remind one another that it's like, hey, it's gone in a heartbeat. I'm 45. I still feel like a 21-year-old. And I look at my mom who's 73 and she says, well, I still feel like I'm a 21-year-old cycling up Churchtown Avenue. So I don't think that ever changes. And your mom was there, Iris, and I'm sure she still feels like she's, a 16-year-old and she looks amazing. She looks so fit and strong and healthy. And yeah, I think it just goes by a blink. I remember having my daughters and everyone saying, oh, Jesus, save her. Like it goes by in a blink. And I'm like, Jesus, now I'm at the other end going, I've become that stereotype that says it to new parents. Jesus, it goes by a blink. Really save her.
Yeah. There are a couple of directions there that I'd love to take. And I think I want to come back and talk about purpose and this idea of your purpose being you and what that means. But I would love to just, because you talked about big environmental issues and, food system challenges and, 11 years before no points of no return. And it does seem that in the world right now, there's a lot of heaviness. There are big problems in almost every sector we look at, and we're more aware of them than we ever have been. And what that screams to me is that life is dangerous and it needs to be taken seriously. And so that is an interesting place to be, because what you're talking about is being more joyful and less serious, but yet we've all these serious problems. Like, how do you balance that existential world with also the everyday sort of, no, I'm going to jump in the sea and have a laugh and be more joyful whilst I do all of this work?
Well, I don't look at any media. Like, I don't read newspapers. I don't look at news. I don't look at social media. I don't look at social media at all. So I don't expose myself to media at all, because you can't help but you hear about it. Like, people are always talking about Trump and what's going on in America or blah, 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 or whatever. You hear anything that's really important. So I definitely do bury my head in the sand consciously, and have done since I was 20, and just stayed away from all that stuff because I found it didn't enhance my life. But I think it's a challenge. I don't think anyone's got the right balance. Like I quoted those stats from that book which I was reading, but his whole thing is that we've got to reconnect with, whether we live in a city or a farm or a high-rise building, we've got to reconnect with nature. Like, we've got to find our love with nature, because ultimately we've had fear-based messaging for the last 2 decades about the fear of climate change or the fear of the world ending or blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't work. Like, people just tune out and go, oh, I've had enough. Oh, boo. I just want to watch something on Netflix and, unplug. So he's 80. I think he's nearly 80. So he's been an environmentalist his whole life. And he's all about recultivating your own joy for nature in your own patch of land, whether it's in a park or a plant in your garden, or just starting to fall in love with it. Because when you fall in love with it, then you're much more caring about what can I do myself? And it has to come from that, not from stick. It has to come from carrot. But back to me, myself, I think I'm fortunate that I've always had a sunny disposition. Like, me and Steve, maybe being identical twins, we've come out with this. We've always been a bit like Tigger out of, what's that one? Winnie the Pooh. Yeah. Tigger was always the kind of playful, happy-go-lucky, kind of stupid kind of character. And me and Steve have always inherently been that. And maybe it's because we've always come out with our other half. Like, we've always had, most people are looking for their other half, typically romantically. We've always had this support. Like, Mom used to say she'd put us in separate cots and she'd come back an hour later and we'd both be in the one cot on top of one another. Like, that we were always, and I look at us now as 45-year-olds, that we'd still be in London and we'd book a room and we both just sleep in the same room, bed, and it wouldn't matter a thing. That I'd spend more time with Steve than I'd probably do with my wife. And, even anyone who's listening to this might go, geez, yeah, you do talk about we rather than I a lot more. So maybe that's part of, my own perspective on things. And I think it is a balancing act. Like, there's another guy who I've really enjoyed listening to in the last number of months. Neville Goddard is his name. He was born in 1903, I think, and died in 1975. And it's very interesting. What's your man's name? Joe Dispenza. he's a very kind of popular, quantum physics kind of scientific-y kind of rational kind of character. But this guy, like I listen to this guy and I go, oh my God, he was saying this long before Joe Dispenza. It's less scientific-y and more, I find it a really good message. He's all about like your internal world the external world is just a reflection of your internal world. And that sounds so simple and so easy to say, but he articulates in a beautiful way that like, you know, each of us are really, you know, we're vibrating subatomic particles and each of us are tuning forks to a degree. And our thoughts, our beliefs, our perspective, our awareness in each moment is really creating our reality. And I really do believe this. And he says there is some latency, like as in, you know, how you feel now, like you might kind of feel abundant and feel, you know, present and delighted. And you might be, your life in today might be falling apart behind you, you know, around you, that there's X, Y, Z happening, but it's kind of just trusting in the process. And, yeah, he's been a good reminder. I've enjoyed listening to him recently.
Yeah, it's a beautiful message. And at first it's a scary message because it can feel like you're being blamed for how you feel. And that can be really hard because then you're saying, well, if you're anxious, if you're depressed, if you're not the way that you'd like to be, ultimately you're responsible. And for a lot of people, us included, how we were conditioned as we grew up and what happened to our parents and our ancestors, and in particular my granddad, for example, ended up in a situation where his dad died when he was 11 and he had to run a farm that was in debt with 5 or 6 siblings and then a mum who had just lost a partner. And so he had to grow up very hard and very strong and to be a tough man and incredible to run that farm, to raise kids himself. But he came from a different world. Like Ireland 2 generations ago, we weren't talking about LinkedIn and Google and would we get a job down on the docks, and you know, we were talking about putting food on the table, and there was no money in this country, and there's a heaviness there, and the way I like to think about it is you're not to blame for anything that's being passed down to you, but you are responsible in this life, in your one precious life, of starting to let go of some of that and starting to work on some of that. And it's really hard because at the inside now, you might feel fear every day, but you don't always have to. Like there are ways, things like you're talking about, ways of shifting that. When you start to take responsibility of what's going on inside you and start to get a few tools and a few habits that start to transform that and go in community and talk to people about it, and even sharing it and having someone listen to you can really, really help. And that inner journey over your life is the thing that will give you the most joy and it's just taking that first step, realizing that, and then starting to think about, well, what is it that puts me in a good state and what is it that pulls me out? How can I do more of that?
Yeah, very, very true. Like I even think of yesterday, yesterday was Monday, today's Tuesday, yeah. I guess my weekend was busy with all sorts of things going on. And then mornings in my house they're just busy with 3 kids and 2 going to school and a 1.5-year-old. And very often by the time it comes to 9 a.m. or like 9:30 and time to go to work, I'm like, geez, I'm frazzled because you've just been reacting and dropping one and walking one and feeding one and juggling and whatever. And you go, oh my God. Then I got here yesterday to Pearville where we are now. And I was like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. And I just felt like tired and I felt a bit overwhelmed. I was like, oh, I don't want to look at anything. So I made a nice cup of tea and I sat out there in the grass and I took my shoes off and I just sat there and I definitely had a heaviness about me. And I sat there with my feet in the ground and it was a nice morning for maybe 20 minutes. And then I felt grand. And then it kind of shifted again. Like just when I sat there and was present and I breathed, like I was just more conscious. I was more present. I acknowledged what I was feeling. And then suddenly a lightness kind of started to happen within me. And then suddenly I was off moving and getting about my day.
Such a great example. And giving yourself the permission to do that, the permission to stop and permission to actually spend that time for yourself, those little micro moments, like they can be the difference in a life.
Oh, well, the difference in a day, because, you know, what might have happened is because I hadn't acknowledged my own feeling, or I might have been repressing it or like driving it down, it would have come out at someone else throughout the day. I would have probably snapped at someone, or like resentment or something would have come out, and I would have created more negativity or more work or more shitness in my life instead of more ease and flow and joy. So for me, it was a nice reminder, I found it good.
Yeah, exactly. That's the bottom line. I found it good. And it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be fancy.
No, just sitting and having a cup of tea out in the grass and just breathing and kind of going, well, I feel a little heavy.
Yeah.
And then it changed.
No, and there's a conscious choice there, but there's a commitment, right? There's a commitment to how you're being over other things, right? So one of the ways I like to think about this, and this was, I've done a lot of work with Sadhguru, who is an Indian mystic, and he's brilliant. He's all over YouTube. But what he said to us was, he goes, the way we are conditioned to be is that I want to have this thing. Therefore, I do these other things. And as a result of that, I am a certain way, right? I want to have the career, I want to have the car, I want to have the house. So therefore, I do all these things that I don't really want to do, but I do them just because I need to get those things. And then as a result of that, I am a certain way, right? He goes, the way to do it is you've got to flip it. You've got to say, no, I want to be a certain way, which is a courageous act. Then, as a result of that, therefore I do certain things.
I'd even go on more. I'd go, rather than, it's not like I want to be, it's like I am right now.
Yeah.
Like I am right now. Like, because if you fulfill the things that you want, like you have the nice house, you have the job, have a nice income, and you have a nice partner, and you have kids, and like externally people go, geez, that lad's made it. He's what a successful character. Like, you've got to be it now. You got to be it today. Like I consistently, like I do journal in the morning, I do journal in the evening. I'm like, I am the most wealthy human on the planet in everything. Like I am abundant. Like whether it's true or not, it doesn't matter. Like, cause how do you react today in your day? The energy you emit, like walking down the street. If I'm calm and relaxed and open to opportunities and aware, like all these different things happen. Like, so I think it's a conscious choice it's so easy to look at your bank account, to look at something and go, oh, geez, compared to such and such, I'm not doing good enough. And it's like exactly as you were saying, like what Sadhguru is saying is, instead of waiting until you're whatever, 50, 60, 80, till you've got these things which you want, and then going, oh, finally I've made it. Jeez, I had 60 years of toil and misery, but I've made it now. Look at me. Like it's kind of going, well, today, how can you just embody it and be it right now and not have to wait for these external factors?
Yeah. That commitment, I think, is the journey. And where I find myself now is, oh, I can be that after this. I can be that after that. And there's always another thing. And suddenly this keeps moving. It's always just around the next corner or over the next hill or at the next, and it never arrives.
Well, that's why I believe it has to be today. It's like, well, like freedom starts now. It starts now and it starts today. And it's, how can you, like, I look at myself in my own life, like it's kind of, I would often go to myself and go, well, like if I had, whatever your sum of money is, if I had millions of euro in my bank account and I had, like, I was financially completely free and I was that character that you're meant to be, that society says you're meant to be, how would I live my life? I'd probably walk a little slower. I'd probably be a bit more mindful. I'd probably be, I'd imagine I'd have more time for people. I'd be more generous. Well, fucking be it today. Like, try to be it today. Like, even amongst the responsibilities and the duties which you have, how can I be that walking, whatever that success is for you, whether it's, I don't know what the hell it is for anyone, but certainly for me, what society has put upon me is that you're financially free, then you're successful. So it's that kind of thing that, like, today I'm that. I am 1,000,000% that.
Yeah. And there's just so much literature and also experience. You talk to anyone who's a psychotherapist. It's the people who are financially free and they come to they reach that mountaintop and then they realize that it didn't deliver the thing that they wanted to deliver. They're the ones who are on the chair. They're the ones who are struggling with depression. They're also the ones who end up ultimately paying the ultimate price.
Yeah.
And there's very sad statistics about the amount of suicide in those sorts of populations. And it's so counterintuitive to the way we've been conditioned, but it happens. And so there was one bit there in what you said around success, and what I'm hearing from you is you're actually redefining success. You're saying that success is how I'm being, rather more so than what I'm having. And
well, like it's the same experience, like whether like us both sitting here, whether there's 10 million in our bank account or 10 euro, it's the same experience. We're both sitting in chairs. We're sitting here. We got microphones in front of us, and whatever stage of the day, it's more a psychological idea. Money is this psychological idea. So I know it's very easy to be wise and say these things easily. It's more difficult to apply them and actually embody them and experience them on a daily basis. But I really do believe that I think it's down to, if you want wealth and abundance, you've got to really embody it right now. And you might not have the financial resources right now. You might kind of go like, well, I've got €3 in my bank account. How the hell am I meant to be abundant and wealthy? Like, I think it's probably energetically in terms of being abundant, like walking like you have lots of money, like, and not in an arrogant way, but just more in like, it's that kind of, you've got to embody what you want to be. If you want to be healthy, you've got to embody and really consistently, like, as Einstein said, like, our imagination is the most powerful thing, like our imagination. And you've got to, like, our mind is just so powerful. I really, really do believe it. And I guess I'm on this curious journey. I don't have the answers. I'm a pleb that's doing his best and fumbling along in this wild and precious life. But I do find within my life that the more I am intentional and the more I do spend time in the morning and the evening and have a bit of space and be more intentional about how I live my life, the better it tends to be on a daily basis. Because today is the day, is all that's on the menu.
Yeah. I wanted to discuss this idea of purpose, because what I see, what I've experienced in the first 32 years of my life is purpose anxiety. The idea that I have to have something massive that I am doing, an impact I'm having on the world, or a change that I'm making, whether it's environmental, whether it's ending world hunger. Like, I have to have that, and I must be motivated to go after that, or else there isn't a purpose in my life. And what I've read in some of your blogs is this different, more diverse perspective on purpose. And you encapsulated in the phrase, your purpose is you. And that it looks different for every person. And it might not be big things, it can be small things as well. And there's this blend of purpose. And from someone who has done huge, big things in the world, right, in that purpose, in an impact space, how do you think about purpose now?
It's like, it's a word, it's a word, purpose, that does it heaviness. And people, as you said, certainly I look at people in their 20s or their, people who are just starting working, and it's like, it's very much purpose driven and impact driven, which is wonderful and it's amazing. But most jobs, it can be difficult to see purpose. Like, that story of that there's 3 lads carrying boulders up the hill. Like, one of them's carrying boulders up the hill and that's his job. And someone says to him, what are you doing? And he goes, I'm just carrying boulders up the hill. They're really heavy and my back's sore and I'm sick of it. I'm doing it for 20 years. And then he goes up to the second lad and he goes, like, what are you doing? And he goes, well, I'm lifting boulders. I get a nice living and I support my family, and, it's not bad. Like, I support my life. And then he goes up to the third lad, and the third lad's skipping along and he's carrying the biggest boulders, the heaviest boulders. And he's like, they may as well have been like, jelly tots. He was so delighted with what he was doing. He said, geez, what's going on for you? Like, you're carrying boulders as well. And he said, I'm not carrying boulders. I'm building a cathedral. I'm building the world's most beautiful cathedral. All the same experience. They're all carrying boulders, but each of them, how they looked at it was quite different. So I think once again, back to the internal game, like, I think how we look at things can be, like, if you look to the world, if you look from the world's eyes at you, you might go, oh, I just crunch numbers, or I just do stuff on a spreadsheet, or sit in a laptop all day. But ultimately, like, if you're a parent, or if you're a part of a community, or part of a citizen, or part of anything, or part of some group, like this, there can be purpose in anything. And it's ultimately, I think when I wrote that article about your purpose being you, it was more back to, like, when you say the word purpose, most people think of outside of yourselves, like, as you said, ending world hunger, or, feeding the poor, or whatever it might be. Those are the kind of big lofty things which we've all kind of culturally been told. But I do believe the more aware and the more kinder and the more, we grow into ourselves, I think the more we give other people and those people around us permission, and inadvertently we are this one entity, we are this one consciousness, although we all experience it as separate individuals, the more each one of us can become more authentically ourselves and more kinder, that will ripple. And then the more negative we are, the more cancerous we become, and the more that spreads in a different way. So I think your purpose being you is ultimately we're part of this living organism, of life. And the more aware and more kinder, joyful, more at peace we can be, the more we will impact others. And that's a great purpose too.
Yeah. I love this idea of diversifying purpose, because there may be a calling that you're called to do in the world. There may be something big that you really feel burning inside you. But that's only one aspect of it, actually. And the experiences I've had over the last year working on this space, because I went from a place of being like, I don't know anything. I'm interested in psychology, I'm interested in people, but I don't really have a purpose, right, that I really resonate with. And then I realized that there are many different aspects to purpose for me. Actually, jumping in the ocean and being in water lights me up. And that, for me, there's purpose in that, the expression of that. I love speaking to people and just being more fully myself, and giving others the permission to be more fully themselves. Like a sense of safety, just express and be a bit silly. And that's not a frivolous thing, actually, because ultimately, as you said, we're one consciousness that's experiencing itself. And it's experiencing itself in many different ways. And the way that you are crafted to help that consciousness experience itself is your purpose, and what is inside you waiting to come out, whether that's going out at the night and looking up at the stars and you just love that. Or I met a guy yesterday and he was sitting on top of a mountain, and he had an old army radio, and he goes, yeah, there's 20 of us in Ireland, and what we do is we have these old army radios, we sit on top of hills, we come up here, we put an aerial up, and I just see how far I can go. And I talk to people in Canada, and this guy in Canada now is telling me about what the signal strength is on the west coast of Canada, and he loved it. And you can't go to someone and say, well, what impact is that having on the world? There's something in him that wants to be expressed in that way. And he goes, there's only 20 of us. Do you always get someone? I've gone as far as Canada. The real one is Australia. I really want to get Australia. Well, you could see it lit him up. And you might say that's frivolous, but I would say that's not.
Well, that's beautiful. That's
beautiful.
Like learning to light yourself up, and that might be one. Light yourself up. Is that through masturbation or whatever? But it's like, no, light yourself up, like learning, like that's the challenge. Like, and it's a bit like talking about happiness, as I said, can be contentious because people go, oh, blah, blah. People can be, it's easy to throw rocks at it when people are talking about it. Oh, what do you think? Do you think you know what better? Are you Mr. Happy or whatever? But I really do believe, I think that part of life is the more that we can learn to light ourselves up via finding passions, finding joy, finding things that make us feel alive, because it's so easy to find things that pull us down and make us heavier, make us whatever. But I think that is the trick. Like that is part of like exactly what you're saying, like whether it's trains. I look at my father-in-law and he's Belgian. So like Central Europe, and he builds train, like he's got train sets. Like he builds trains and builds these big, massive, big platforms with trees and towns, and he's all his different trains that go around the track, and and he gets so delighted when you go up there and you see him and he's got his hat on and and it's just hilarious. It's brilliant.
It's beautiful. And to the feeling of being in that for you, and the feeling of being around people who are on purpose.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it's so intoxicating.
It's contagious. Yeah, it really, really is that.
And to that point, I want to read a comment that was left on that blog around my purpose being you. And this hit me so hard. And it says, wow, now I get it. I always wondered what my purpose was. Mum to 4 adult children, nanny of the house, and 8 grandbabies. My purpose is to be me just as I am, no longer controlled by others. It's taken the deaths of my mum and ex-husband for me to feel to be me at 63. Thank you.
Wow. Jesus. I didn't read all the comments.
But isn't that radical?
Wow.
The impact that has for people to realize that their purpose is to be fully themselves, whatever that looks like. And you are that extroverted, happy, friendly person who's walked down the street. That doesn't have to be you. If that's not how you feel, purpose is curling up in the corner and reading a great book and that really lights you up, then that's your version of that as well. And there are things in your life, and you will notice that there's a balance, right? There's stuff that restores you, then there's stuff that you're really going out into the world and you're given. And I think it's unique for every person. And the more we can look inside ourselves to figure out what those are and align our lives with that, I think the richer our lives will be.
Hello there. We'll get back to the conversation in just a sec. But first I want to share about something that's very close to my heart right now. And that is the whole area of purpose. I've struggled with purpose throughout my life, all the way from believing that everything was completely meaningless to really focusing on career and external achievements and feeling that purpose was in proving that I was worthy, to now really understanding that purpose does exist and it's about becoming fully ourselves. I've been working with the Soul Alignment Method and Miles Trainer, who's been a guest on this podcast, for the last number of years. And through that work, I've really learned how to uncover my own purpose, the elements of my own unique purpose blueprint, and now to help others do the same. And as part of Soul Alignment Method, the vision is a world where everyone knows who they are, why they are here, and can live it in this lifetime. This allows us to really make decisions that are in our highest alignment around career, around relationships, around lifestyle, location, and around our physical health and all the other areas of our life. Really brings this life to a whole other dimension. And as part of that vision, I would like to offer to listeners of this podcast a completely free or donation-based initial session for 90 minutes where we go deep and draw out from within the unique elements of your soul's purpose, your purpose blueprint. If this is something that's interesting to you, you can visit my website at www.humankinder.com.au and contact me there, or you can send me an email or go to the link tree in the description, which has all the links on my WhatsApp. You can also follow and message me on humankinder on Instagram, which is human_kinder. And I would absolutely love to work with you on this if it feels in alignment. Thank you. And now back to the show.
Yeah, I think it ebbs and flows because there's like the purpose being you makes it baggy enough that it's not like my purpose is it's always to feed the poor. You know, it's like that you're an evolving, changing human. And some days you're chipper and you're the most happy-go-lucky character in the world. But as you said, some days you're not. You're more reflective and introspective and you want to spend a bit of quiet time. And that purpose is restoring you, or it's whatever it might be, but I think it's making sure that it's back to that idea that you are enough exactly as you are. Like you are enough. And I think that's not a cultural message which we hear very often because there's so much, we're all in the treadmill. We're busy, being productive units of our GDP, of our country's GDP and consuming, as per our culture tells us. But I think that idea of that you are enough. You listening, you are 1,000,000% enough, just as you are and I am. And I think that's just like, I don't know how we can remind ourselves of that 50 times a day. You're enough. You don't need to stop trying to prove it to, whoever, whether it's a high school teacher or a parent or a whatever, like you are enough. Because society just reinforces that message that you're not enough because it helps us buy things and it helps us X, Y, Z. But I think that you are enough. You are enough. And you will be old one day. Today, you are the youngest you will ever be. And you will, it's somehow fine. Like, I think part of the experience of life is to try to, like, obviously, who knows what the hell the purpose of life is? Like, no one actually knows it. But from my experience, it's more, how can I find more joy and ease and lightness and love within myself? And that to me is just what a journey, what a mission. It's not even a mission. Mission sounds like this forceful, but it's ultimately within our society, within the culture which we live in. How can we find more ease and peace and joy and be more light? If you look at most spiritual contexts or religious books, it'll be like, I even think back to, we grew up as Catholic, and there was, I'm going to plagiarize and I'm going to butcher it to bits, but there was some kind of saying which I remember you'd hear it in church or things where it would be, you need to be the child to get into the kingdom of heaven, something to that degree, that ultimately we need to let go of our egos and become more lighter and pure and easy going, like childlike, because kids have wonders. They aren't trying to outdo one another. I know there's always bullies in playgrounds, but most kids are very pure, and this is why adults, we adore them, because they're so accepting, and there's wonder and there's joy. Sure, they explode in tears and they XYZ, but there's so much joy and wonder. And I think as adults, how we can consistently cultivate that amongst our responsibilities, because there tends to be a lot more responsibilities and duties as an adult.
Yeah, and the responsibilities don't get abandoned. They happen. They still happen.
Yeah, I'm not saying that anyone needs to,
It's more like, where are you doing them from?
Yeah.
Right.
How you do things is more like a bit like in communication. Like Stephen will often give this analogy. He'll say like, how you say something is more important than what you say. Like, and this is what they'll say in communication, that like our tone, our pitch, our facial expressions, our body language will influence the other person more than the words, whether they're big, long words or small words, or whether they're in a certain language or not. And I think it's the same way. And Stephen will often use that analogy with food. Like it can often be how you eat your food is as important as what you're eating. And I think it's the same way with whatever our life is, whatever we've got to do. There's plenty of shit you got to do in your life, stuff which you don't choose to do. And it's like, how can you do it? Like, when I've got there's things which I don't want to do, I'll often put on a book, and I'll put on, I tend to listen to books, cause it fits better with modern life. And I've got my headphones in my pocket, I put them in my ear, and away I go. I do listen to books, or I do different things. I find ways to, amongst the carrying boulders up the hill, how can I find joy, or how can I enjoy them, in whatever capacity it can be. And some days you can't, you just got to do it. But yeah.
Yeah. Again, it's not about perfection. It's a little bit more of this.
Yeah.
I fall off every single day. It's like, there's a lovely poem, by this Persian poet called Hafiz. I'm going to butcher that name. But the first verse of it is, every morning when your eyes open, the work starts again.
Mm.
And the inner work starts again first thing, because I always find that every morning, boom, in comes the world, and suddenly my mind is going, what do I have to do today? Where do I have to be? And it's from that moment, just taking control. From that moment, just being aware.
But even from that, like that perspective, a bit like the external is reflected with your internal. When you go about your day with that perspective of, oh shit, what I have to get done? How do I do it? There's just anxiety. Like you start your day with anxiety, and therefore throughout your day, every interaction you have, you're going to pick up more. Like people are going to feel your anxiety, because most of communication is non-verbal. They'll pick it up. They'll be aware of it, and they'll feed off it and probably give you more of that back to you. So your day's probably going to compound and get worse. Whereas like, I really do believe the more that you can, even before, like I look at myself, like I don't have the answers, by the way. This is me fumbling around with my work in progress life. But I certainly, in the morning, I'll sit there and I'll honestly lie there. I woke up this morning at probably 5:15. I just woke up. I went to bed at 8:45. So I woke up with an alarm around 5:15, and I lied in bed for about 10 minutes. And I was thinking about all the things in my life that are just, I'm so lucky. I'm so unbelievably lucky. And I was thinking, and it's not big things. It's not big things at all. It's like my daughters, my wife, my body, food. We've got food in our house. Aren't we so lucky? My body is amazing. I can run. I'm going to go swim in the sea. We're going to train my king. And I was thinking about all these things and really feeling it. And then I did like maybe 3 minutes writing things in a journal, until then I had things that, what's going on in my day? And I was looking at things, but I certainly intentionally started my day and wanted to emit that energy and have that going throughout my day, that it's like, I'm so fortunate. This is so lucky. I'm so blessed.
Yeah. I really struggle with gratitude. I struggle with that, because for me now, get up in the morning, meditate, go for a dip in the ocean, work out, it's become this military routine.
Yeah, well, see that's
and that's just to get that is the bare minimum standard. And it's kind of like, I'm just getting that done to get on to the next thing, and I'm not enjoying it for the process of it at all.
Well, that's what. And I can only give an analogy of my life when me and Steve were approaching finding more joy and more ease within our own lives through the lens of, well, like at 6:30 we do an hour's yoga, and then we do our swim, and then we flog ourselves for an hour from 8 to 9, and then we meditate for 5 hours, and then we do two, and it had become so rigid within it. Like we did Ashtanga yoga for 10 years. We did it every morning. We do it. We wouldn't do it on a full moon. And we were like, we did an hour and a half Ashtanga yoga every day. And we were like, it was like, there was plenty of flagellation and flogging. Like I'm being joking here. There wasn't really, but it was more energetically. That was the expression which we were putting out. Whereas I look at my life now and it's baggier. I just have more bagginess in it. I'm not trying to be perfect. I'm a flawed human being that's trying to prioritize my life for more ease, more joy, and more flow within it. And maybe that's just with coming and having kids, because you can't, like my kid, you just can't hold on to being perfect at anything, because you are a servant to other humans and they come first before you, and you've got to adapt around them. So maybe that's why I can say that now as someone who's 45 and has 3 kids, and I can't prioritize myself, or I can't prioritize my perfect morning routine. That just has to always be adapting. And it's always like, if I can do something, I'm winning.
Yeah. Life has a way of waking you up.
Yeah.
And that's my quote of the day now. It's baggier. Make it baggier.
Yeah. Make it like that. It was Matt Haig used to say that. He was an author who used to suffer with mental health things. He's an amazing author that sold loads and loads of books. And he'd always say to make your life, your morning routine or whatever, baggy enough to fit your life, that it has to be really flexible and really adaptable. And like we've gone, as I said, me and Steve have gone through years of yoga, and then years of handstands, and, all sorts of animal movements and all sorts of things. But it's a mixture of different things. And it's not like, the goal isn't to try to become He-Man it's just, for the experience in the moment. I love yoga now because it makes me feel, I enjoy the experiences. I'm not looking for something after it. Like, I enjoy the process.
Yeah. Last question and last topic. But you've mentioned a few times this idea of one consciousness, right, at the ultimate level. And you've mentioned that you grew up Catholic as well. And there's a great history of Catholicism in this country, which has died off in the last couple of generations. And this idea of God and the soul and all of this, how do you relate to that now? And I know you've been to the East and you've practiced that. How do you relate to this idea of God, one consciousness, ultimate consciousness? What's that journey been like for you?
Well, religion, organized religion, I haven't really been a practitioner of. Growing up as a kid, it was just you had to go to church. That was what it was. And we grew up in a Catholic little town or community, so we went to the Catholic church. Until then, Mom, at age 12, we weren't made go anymore, so we didn't have to go. And I've never been attracted to organized religion. I do see the benefits. I see a lot of people people bring their best, and there's great communities, and you really make beautiful connections with it. And I think that is amazing. I really admire it. And I see the birth of kind of new churches and different kind of things. And I go, people are getting so much from it. And I look at my mother-in-law. She goes to church every Sunday, and they meet beautiful people. And I really admire her faith. But for me, the bit which I find difficult about organized religion is just I don't believe the stories. Like, I feel like I need to believe them, and I don't believe the stories. And it's quite like the fear aspect of it doesn't feel authentic to me. So I've been much more drawn towards spirituality, and spirituality sounds a bit more vague, but I think my spirituality is much more nature. Like, like we used to say on Christmas Day when Granny and Mom and Dad would be going to church, like we'd be saying, well, I'm going to my church. I'm going down to see the sea. And that would be our thing. And maybe nature is connecting with my own nature within me and becoming more authentically myself. So it's back to the same thing that I think, God, I don't know, like I think we're all probably God in distribution. We're all fragments of God at some degree. I'm too much of a peon to actually, I can't validate in anything, but that's my own sentiment. Yeah, but I think like ultimately, like I feel like I'm an inhabitant of this body. I don't believe I am this body. So therefore I must be some type of spirit or some type of thing. I don't know what it is. And I think life is it's probably over in a blink, the ultimate truth within it for me is to find more joy, find more peace, find more self-acceptance, and have as much of a laugh as long as I can.
And that's an expression of God.
Yeah, that would be my kind of God or whatever.
Yeah, I love it. This has been a enriching conversation for me. I feel elevated as a result of it, and I've taken lots of things, and whether it's the awareness more of the inner world, it's the practical elements of that, it's taking things just a little bit less seriously and embodying who I am just a little bit more. I think that's the journey that I'm on. I think it's a journey that everybody is on, and whatever way that this conversation can help them and maybe got from it, I think that's exactly what you need to get. And so thank you so much for your generosity.
Oh, thanks so much. It's great for me to ruminate, take the time to ruminate and ponder and have a good old chat. Sure, isn't it great?
It is great. Thank you.
How lucky we are.
We are very
and if someone listens to it, brilliant.
Nobody's ever going to listen
to
it.
What crack?
And that's the beautiful thing, is that nobody's going to listen to this, and that doesn't diminish it at all, actually.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm here for the present. I'm for the experience in the moment.
That makes it better.
Yeah.
So thank you.